Hi there. So glad you could join us today. Welcome to this channel. Here you will meet some incredible women who have journeyed through many types of challenges. And I know you're going to be inspired by their stories. I invite you to subscribe and share to encourage your friends. Today, I want to introduce you to my friend, Rena. So welcome, Rena. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
And you've had a good day?
I have had a great day. Yeah.
Good. Okay. So Rena and I have known each other for many years. And I know that you have a lot of stories, Rena. So you have recently journeyed through a difficult time. I wondered if you would share that part of your life with us.
All right. So I want to start kind of at the beginning, and then I'm going to jump forward because it started December 27th, 1997. I was 23 years old. And I fell in love and married the man of my dreams, and said some vows that were really important to me. And part of my journey is that those vows were fulfilled. So the vows were to take my husband, Richard, to be my husband, to have and to hold from that day forward, for better, for worse, for richer, for poor, in sickness and in health, to love, to cherish and obey till death do us part, according to God's holy law. So we actually said those vows, and it was before the living God. And yeah, when I turned 40 and he was 44, he was diagnosed with left kidney carcinoma, which is cancer. And it took us on a journey of incredible opportunity, but also some adversity, and which ultimately took his life not even a year ago. So this is pretty fresh, but I was invited to come because there's so much hope through the journey of cancer, and I have received many pieces of wisdom and many stories to share that are joyful, and even some intimate things of what I've learned along the way of how to cope and how to hold on to faith and the trial that it actually is.
It is. It's a difficult time.
It is, and I'm smiling because I actually count it with joy. Mostly, I mean, there's moments of sadness and tears that I am grieving, but most of it is an account of joy and hope and trusting, right? And so, yeah, I lost.
It's really a privilege to be able to walk with someone through this.
Yeah. So, and it had been, right? It was 10 years with cancer, and it had lots of ups and downs, and but the mind is a powerful thing. The heart is powerful, and the soul is powerful, right? So it all worked together to bring me to the place where I am right now. So
Okay.
yeah.
So he was 44 when he was diagnosed.
Yeah. And 52 when he passed away. They had given him 2 years to live with that kind of kidney cancer. It was pretty progressive at that point. It was stage 4. They did do a big surgery to cut it out, which landed him into a remission for a time. And then in the fall winter of that year, his surgery was in May, and in November he had developed a hole in his diaphragm, which caused him to have a critical injury where his organs in the bottom half of his abdomen were sucked up through the hole into his chest, moving his heart over. So they had to go in and do emergency surgery for that, which landed him into hospital for 4 months, actually.
Wow.
And we still had small kids at home. And yeah, our boys were a little older, but they were still small. Our youngest was just 10 and 12 and no, 13 and 15. So that's pretty pretty young, and I was young, and we used to walk around laughing of what we're doing here because we were so young, and everybody else with cancer was pretty old, right? So, walking those hallways, it was just unbelief that this is what our lives were turned on, right? So,
Yeah. That's
yeah,
a lot for your boys too. You've got three
yeah,
boys, so that was a
I
lot for your
do,
boys. This is
I
they're
do.
watching their strong dad.
Yeah, and how their parents maneuvered all of it in those vows, right? And we talked a lot about love and what we do for love and what love looks like. And
Yes.
I wasn't always perfect at it, and he wasn't either, but we certainly were together quite a lot and fell in love again and again every day because we knew that there was maybe a day that we weren't going to be together, right? So,
Right.
yeah.
So what part of the story do you want to share of like what would be
Well, I have a term that I talk about lots, and it's called the in-between. And it's a unique place, and I think a lot of women have found themselves there, regardless of the circumstance. And my in-between is the time of his death, where the funeral took place, to the now, where I am a woman who is 49 years old and a widow, and I'm a single mom all of a sudden, a single income holder, with a new job and a new destiny, and trying to figure all of that out. And even in that, there was an in between all the way along this journey, that we were in between appointments, or we were in between CT scans, we're in between, and that's the waiting on God part that we probably could talk about, because it brings such hope, right? And it
yeah,
grounds us, and it girds us, and it gives us an opportunity to learn who the Father really is, and just the majesty of Christ, because he was with us, and the Holy Spirit, like worshiping and praising God all the way through this, even in the circumstance. That's the in between, that he dwells with us, right?
yeah, yeah. And I know
Yeah,
that you and Richard were worshiping right up until the end, which is incredible.
yeah. Well, it was more his his way, because yeah, in the last year, so he was saved while we were dating, and we
That's
really
when we
didn't get
met.
in. Yeah, yeah,
That's when I met you. That's when I met you
yeah.
guys. Yeah.
Exactly. And so he got saved, but he wasn't a big reader. And so, but in the last year of his life, when the chemo ended, and the sickness really took hold, he became a worshiper, like the man of my dreams. And I mean, he was always a good man of my dreams, but this was incredible. Like, he positioned himself before God, and he trusted God, and the word just came alive to him, and things started to make sense, and worshiping God, putting on praise in the circumstance of death and dying. It was incredible. Like, we felt it, our family felt it. He knew where he was going, and he was excited because the suffering was so long, and he was really tired, right?
Yeah. And you would have
Yeah,
found your strength.
yeah. And the letting go was in worship. The letting go,
Yeah.
that was hard.
Yeah.
I was singing "It Is Well With My Soul," and when we got married, it was like three chords got put together. That's the analogy Christians use a lot, right? There's God and your husband and your wife, right? And we're all braided together. And during that worship, and I had experiences in the summer before that I wasn't ready to let go. But at this moment, the Lord just said, "It's time, Rena." And I had this encounter where, as I'm worshiping, he unbraided my husband and I, because we were very close, like we were one person in front of him, and he didn't let go. And that was painful. That was hard to have that happen when
Yes.
your soul is torn,
Yeah.
especially after learning to trust somebody with your life, with your children, your fight, like all of it. You trust that person with every part of you, and you become one together just like it's supposed to be, and you're in love, and the Lord says, it's time for him to come home. I have need of him. And that unbraiding was so painful, but I chose to praise through it. And Richard passed away not too long after that, and he went home, and I know where he is. He knows where he was going, and it brings joy to know. He even in the last days, he was reading the scripture about how the kingdom of heaven works. Like, one day in his court is like 1,000 elsewhere. And he popped up in bed and he's like, Reen, one day is like 1,000. And he understood. And I popped up in bed and I said to him, yeah, but that's one day for you and 1,000 for me. And he looked at me and he smiled and he's like, oh, well. And it's actually helped me because I didn't have cancer. I didn't have to go through treatment. I didn't have to feel unwell. I didn't have to lose my taste. I didn't lose my voice to say I love you. I didn't lose anything but the man that I fell in love with. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
And so knowing that he's there for one day and I have 1,000, I also told the Lord, in the in-between, I vow, because I walked away from my corporate job with my income and my 8 weeks paid vacation, because I told the Lord, because of his faithfulness to me, that I will go where he's at, and where he says to go, I'm going. And so I learned again how to be in this in-between space of newness, because now I'm without a husband, I'm without security, I'm without a lot of things. I'm just me, and it's wobbly and it's uncomfortable, and it's different, and people actually respond to single people differently than they do when they're married. And it's been a hard road. And speaking with single women, divorced or widowed, it's very challenging to be in the in-between, and it's challenging and uncomfortable for most women, from what I'm understanding. And so, to bring comfort to the knowledge that God is faithful and he's truth, and he honors those who honor him and walk in his ways and in his paths. And that in between becomes a little bit clearer, and it becomes a little bit more steady. And I miss my husband. I miss everything about him every single day, all day long.
Yeah.
To the point where I know my home is not here. My home's gone to be with the Lord, if that makes sense. But in that, there's joy, because I had something that a lot of people don't have. And I experienced something with a living God that a lot of people don't receive. And I just pray every day that I can keep going and not be too sad. I refuse to be devastated by the loss of him, because I don't want to be in that in-between space where my response to it changes because I'm alone, or my response isn't praise and worship because I'm alone and it's hard and things are so different. My response to this in between is, I'm going to praise God, because that's the position. Because
Yeah,
I'm going to praise God.
yeah,
Yeah.
because we aren't alone, and we get to that point where he's with us so close. That whole psalm about, blessed are those who are he's with the brokenhearted.
Yeah.
And he's so close. He's
So close. Yeah. Yeah. And to give you the desires of your heart, things that were asleep a little while ago, when you're young, to a place where, oh, I would like to go and do missions and travel, and it's an opportunity that I'm able to do, right? Or I remember the night that he passed away, I was up till 1 or 2 in the morning, and the boys were like, Mama, are you all right? And I'm like, guess what? I'm not sick. To realize that there's going to be a refreshing that happens is amazing, right? But it comes with a cost of uncomfortableness. It comes with a cost of just trying to figure it all out, right? So yeah.
There's
Yeah.
there's
Sorry,
there's hope.
There is hope.
Oh,
There's music playing in the background.
oh,
Sorry. It's
that's
my
okay.
worshiper is out there.
No, I can't
Gonna
hear it.
okay.
Yeah, there is hope.
There
And
is hope.
it's seeing our identity change. Um, as just belonging to Jesus and being with him.
Yeah.
And it's a totally different trust walk. And
Yeah.
I don't understand, I haven't experienced the grief of a husband, but I have experienced grief and losing a marriage. So I
Yeah.
understand the whole letting go of everything and letting go of a dream
Yes.
of how,
There's a lot of that.
yeah.
There's a lot of that. Yeah. So I just think that there's an extravagant way to respond to these things in life. And that in between can take you to places that your heart dreamt of maybe once long ago. But then there's like opportunity to grow and we learn and there's beauty in it. Like I'm so happy to be able to say and do the things that I'm doing, which are the things maybe I wanted to do all along, you know? But maybe surrender them to be able to look after my family or surrender them to be a good godly wife in the time where I was a caregiver. Or, like there's lots of things that we have in front of us that we choose and make choices. But this special, this in between where I'm a new creation, a new identity here on this side of the veil, but I always know who I am to Christ.
Mhm.
I am his bride and I'm a daughter of the Most High. That's never changed, right?
Right.
So there's
Right.
lots of changes, but then there's some things that are just so rooted and grounded, right? Yeah,
Yeah. And there's a time and a season for everything.
there sure is.
You
Yeah,
know,
yeah,
there's a time where your family really needed you.
absolutely. Yeah. And I had that opportunity to be able to do that, right? We need to evaluate life and hold on to what we have when we have it and not worry about tomorrow. Be present, right? You have to be present. And those are the times that I enjoyed the most. I have so many memories and so many amazing stories because I was present, right? And it didn't help that this all happened through the pandemic because
No,
I
it
still
wouldn't.
had work commitments, right? And things, but looking back, I have no regrets because I took time, I prioritized time with my husband, right?
And you would have the lessons and the teaching of the importance of every day.
Yes. Yes, I sure did. Yeah. Yeah. I'm just texting my singer out there. You can't hear him, eh? Can you hear music? Sorry.
No, I
This
can't.
worshiping happens here. Even through all of this, this is still where we're a house that worships God, and my son is out there singing and worshiping, and um, it's a beautiful legacy to lay on or lean into, right?
Yeah,
So yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
It's great. I mean, for background noise, what's better than that?
I know, I know. Yeah,
But
because the house is different. The house is quiet, right? And that silence sometimes can destroy us, and sometimes you need a little bit of hope.
well,
Yeah.
we all need hope because today is today, but we're never sure what tomorrow is going to be. Our
No.
dreams can change just like that,
Yeah.
you
But
know.
Linda, I'm excited to know what tomorrow's going to be. And I wake up and I thank the good Lord that I'm going to be blessed. I'm going to bless the day because I'm doing what I'm called to be. And that's just me.
And he does have a
Sounds
purpose and a
corny. Sounds corny.
no, he has a purpose and a plan for each of us. And
Yeah.
sometimes there's the time in the season and we have to wait for our season.
Yeah.
When you're talking about the time in between, that's what I call the pause.
Yeah.
Where one door shuts, but we're in the hallway and the next door hasn't opened yet. And it's the
That's right.
healing, there's a healing in the hallway.
That's right.
It's just
Yeah.
we have to heal in the hallway before we open the next door.
That's very true. Yeah. If I didn't do the work, like I went to a counselor in preparation of my husband's death, is I didn't want
Okay.
to get depressed. I didn't want to break apart. And I mean, I have every reason to, but that situation taught me, and she met my husband. I had to take him with me to an appointment because there was nobody able to watch him during that time. But that was important to me to prioritize my self-care and look after my needs, because if we don't do that, then we're no good to anybody. We're not good for anything.
Yeah.
So I went every week just to prepare myself, and we talked in our grief about preparatory grief. So anticipating our grief, right? And the anxiety that actually came. I mean, I was having panic attacks over all of the trauma and everything that I've endured. I mean, that hard work, that's hard work, but that's hard work. And that self-care is important for people to be able to walk through the next door well, right?
Yes. Yes.
And that's where my joy comes from, because I mean, I knew enough to, I never been to a counselor before, and I didn't know what to expect, but to make sure that you have somebody there to be able to navigate through the emotions and give a language to it was actually really helpful for me, because they don't talk about anxiety when you're grieving. They don't talk about that. They talk about anger. They talk about the ups and downs of emotions. They the 5 stages of grief, but they don't talk about anxiety. And I was having full blown panic attacks,
Yeah.
and I knew it was my body reacting. But I didn't want to be unwell through the end of this. I wanted to end it well, and boy, did we ever end it well. We had a funeral that was a celebration. And it was incredible. That day was going to be for memories from my boys, memories from me, and I have a feeling heaven was a little bit in awe of it as well.
It was a good service. It was very good, very
Yeah.
memorable. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, those are the things we get to do, to walk through it, but we're not alone in it. We have our communities, and we have other women, and I'm so blessed to have my family, my sisters and my brother, and my mom is still with me. And my mom, of course, is a widow as well. Went through cancer with my dad 3 years after Richard got diagnosed. So there's familiarity and comfort that follow me all the time too, and support me. So I am very blessed.
Often, well, it's our community. It's the people we have surrounded ourselves with,
Yeah.
that can hold us up.
Yeah. And don't they? They do.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's important to have that. So what would you say was not the hardest lesson, but what did you learn? What was your big lesson? What
It's
did God?
gonna sound awful, maybe. I don't know. I feel like suffering is not limited to an actual physical pain. I think suffering brings us closer to the living God. I mean, Jesus suffered on the cross for us. He died. He rose again. That suffering that he did, he's acquainted with our suffering. But suffering on this side of the veil doesn't just have to be a physical suffering. There's a spiritual suffering that people don't talk about, that they don't really know about. And I pray that people don't know too young at life. But I've already walked with so many people that have.
Mhm.
The spiritual suffering that we endure, it allows us to come into a place of understanding, of a place of in between, where God actually connects with us. And I wouldn't give that up for anything. I wouldn't give that up for anything.
It's meeting him in a new way
It really is. It really is. Yeah.
and learning to trust because you've met him that way.
It's easy to trust somebody who shows up, right? Who meets you where you're at, and teaches you the secrets of hidden things and wonders, but really just walks with you and holds your heart and holds your hand, in the spirit, right? I mean, the spirit is the spirit. To be able to do that with my husband through the letting go, I wouldn't give those moments up for anything. I'm so thankful he was with us, to the point where my husband said one night, I was trying to watch like a TV series, and it wasn't godly. The atmosphere actually changed in our room when I turned on a different show from a godly show.
Mhm.
And he was unconscious, but he came around. He's like, why are you turning that movie on? I want to worship. I need
Wow.
to worship. And
Wow.
that's powerful. That's powerful when we can stand or lay in a bed for weeks and months and years and worship a living God. There's some things that are shared with you about the Spirit of God and how He moves. And when you worship God, that's power. That's power. And He shows up. And I don't pretend to know all the things in the spiritual realm. I don't, but I can guarantee you my husband knew things and saw things and was with the kingdom, in the kingdom, especially in his last few days.
Yeah.
Things happened here um, of love. Love showed up here from the Lord.
Yeah. And we often say, like, what does, I mean, Jesus is love. And
He
so when
really
we
is.
say, well, what does love look like? This is it.
This is it.
This is
This
it.
is it. The falling out of the bed and my sisters running to help me in the middle of the night. His cognitive ability changed because of the toxicity of his blood. And we chose to keep him here because this is his home, and my boys had been through so much, and I'm capable of keeping him home, but I couldn't do what I did without my sisters and my brother being here helping me, and their kids. And their interpretation, it was the best summer of their lives, and my experience was very different. I tried to fulfill those vows in sickness and in health, and richer or poor. And he was even concerned about that. His biggest fear in the end, Linda, was losing his voice. He was so worried. And I said, why? Why, darling? I can tell what you are saying just by your eyes. And he says, because I won't be able to tell you I love you. That was my husband. When love is love like this, it's hard to, I miss it. There's nothing in me that won't be honest about that. But there's so much joy knowing he's with the Lord. And we talked lots about what he would be doing up there, and I said, you better be praying for us because we're going to need it. And
Yeah.
but that's love. It's eternal. It's
Yeah.
not just, it doesn't just cut off because his last breath was here. It's eternal. And I again don't pretend to know what's going to happen when I get there, but I do know he's there. And when we worship, I can connect with Christ, and he's with Christ. And it makes me comforted, to worship him in that way. And you'll always see me worshiping the Lord or singing songs. And it's because I'm connected to the living Christ, and I know he's there with him. So it brings such comfort, right?
That's great. There's been I mean, as you know, there's been a lot of loss the last few years. And not everyone has had this type of experience that you have.
No,
Um,
no.
I'm going to ask a practical question.
Yeah.
So, you said you prepared.
Mhm.
So you prepared before Richard died.
Yeah.
Is that different than grieving after?
It was for me because I had 10 years to prepare. Now, if you were to ask my really close friends or my sisters, even my brother, they didn't have the same time. Even my sons have mentioned we had so much time to prepare. And so the grief isn't as painful. But the sudden loss of somebody is very different than somebody who has suffered for 10 years. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And the conversations that you have with somebody for 10 years are very different than the words unspoken in a sudden death.
Mm-hmm.
And so The practical side of things is that I would say to reach out to get a good counselor to navigate through. Um, Honestly, I didn't know what a social worker was really, what they did. But if you have opportunity, if you have kids in school, to work with social worker to be able to help support your family. Our social worker was amazing, and in ways that just sometimes listened, sometimes just answered an email. I even asked for prayer through a public school, and there were the Christians that were in the school. They responded, so we're praying for you and your family. All these things I truly believe helped us along the way, even if I came kicking and screaming. I had nurses that tried to help us. That wasn't such a good experience.
Really?
No, only because I am a nurse, and so I needed to be in control. In hindsight, I wouldn't have done anything different. But those service supports that you can get and you should get, be open to them, and be open to them quickly, because they are there to help you.
Mhm.
Yeah. Finding women who are in similar situations. I mean, Linda, I gave myself a month after my husband passed away to just rest because I was really exhausted. I was doing nursing care with 5 different sites of medication going in his body to keep him comfortable. And I was up around the clock. I did the medication around the clock, and it was every 2 hours, every 4 hours, and so for the last 4 weeks, I was just done, right? But that being said, in October 1st, because we were so committed to being healthy and exercising, I decided to join the gym. And I went to Aquasizes because I love the water and I needed to move, but I needed to just find some healing, right? You've been through a lot, you've got a lot of trauma. And I found a group of women, most of them widows, that were shocked that I was so young and what was I doing and how. But I found healing in the water because these women were connected and encouraging. So find a group of people if you can to connect with, even if they're the old ladies at the Y. They've been through stuff, and women help women. Women hold each other. We nurture each other. The ones that you want to surround yourself with certainly do. So those are 3 practical things that I would recommend. Find the helpers.
Yeah, that's really good because we are created for community.
Absolutely. Yeah.
A lot of times it's difficult to receive.
Yeah. I had to learn that the hard way when the
Mhm.
meals started coming and we're in the hospital. That 4 months that we were in the hospital, people were bringing food and stuff, and because I live out of town, I was staying with my mom in town, and they were bringing food, and it was hard. It's you think it sounds good. But when you have control over the way that you want control or need control over the way that you receive or are perceived by the world, right? I tried to perceive myself of having it together. I did my hair, I did my makeup, I was strong. I wasn't. I wasn't any of that. But I did those things because of the love for my husband. But to receive well is something I've really learned, because love is shared through the exchange of food, the exchange of gift cards, the exchange of coloring books, the receiving of that love. I was forever changed. I mean, if somebody gave me 5 hot dogs out of 6 in a package and drove from Minnedosa, which has happened, I received that. I think the act of somebody trying to give to support another woman, a mother, is a beautiful thing.
Yeah, we when we have a situation of grief, no 2 people will grieve the same way either.
No.
Even I'm thinking when when my parents passed. My sister and I had different relationships with them.
Yeah.
So we have different memories. And so
Yeah.
we would be grieving differently.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I see it in my boys.
Yes, you would.
They're all grieving in different ways. One's going to work and doesn't stop working. That's his father. Another has actually struggled with depression and anxiety that we are walking through. And the other one just had to grow up way too early. You know?
Yeah.
So it is all different. And even with my own grief, I know I know I'm grieving very differently than most women would, because I have the Lord, right? But I encourage people, just be still and just rest and be kind to yourself. I have to remind myself because I put on some weight. Just be kind. This part is just, it's just the in between, and we're going to find a different place, and it's going to be all these things that we've talked about, but there's hope because we just have to be kind to ourselves. We've done an amazing job. Every day we're doing amazing work, and so just be kind.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Just to see yourself the way that Jesus sees you.
absolutely.
And
My
that
crown.
that's what love looks like.
It does.
That's
It
what
does.
love looks like, Rena.
It really does. Yeah,
Yeah.
it really is. It's an amazing. I mean, yeah, I had that kind of love. I have that kind of love.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Any final comments or thoughts you'd like to share?
No, I just feel blessed that we were able to talk, and I feel very honored, honestly, are on the same reward. You know, there is a reward at the end of all these trials, and I just feel very honored to be asked to share. So thank you.
Well, you're welcome. And I know that the people who are watching, they will be inspired by your story, and they will gain strength. And just to recognize, I hope that people will recognize the love that is in their lives,
Absolutely.
and
Yeah.
to see today, every day, but to see today as a gift,
Yeah.
and just to recognize that Jesus is with us.
All the time. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So thanks so much. Thank you so much for sharing that, Rena. And like I said at the beginning, if people who are watching would subscribe and share this message with your friends, because it will encourage and bring hope to others. So thanks again, and we'll see you next time.